Rejoice and be glad. Your reward will be great in heaven.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. My sisters and brothers, our God is with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Christ.
Coming down the mountain with the 12, Jesus stood on a stretch of level ground where there were a large crowd of disciples, in addition to those who had come from Jerusalem and all over Judea, as far north as the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon. Looking at the disciples, Jesus said, "You who are poor are blessed, for the reign of God is yours. You who are hungry, you are now blessed, for you are filled. You who weep are blessed, for you will laugh. You are blessed when people hate you, when they scorn and insult you and spurn your name as evil because of me. On that day, rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for their ancestors treated the prophets the same way. But woe to the rich, for you are now receiving your comfort in full. Woe to you who are full, for you go in hunger. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will weep in your grief. And woe to you when all speak well of you, for their ancestors treated the false prophets in the just way." My sisters and brothers, the good news of our salvation.
Praise to you, O Christ.
So as I prepared a few words on the readings today, I came across a little story by De Mello, who you may be familiar with. And it's in his book, The Song of the Bird. "Excuse me," said the ocean fish. "You are older than I am, so can you tell me where I can find the thing others call the ocean?" "The ocean," the older fish said, "is the thing you are now in." "Oh, this? But this is water," said the ocean fish. "What I am seeking is the ocean." So he said this disappointedly as he swam off in search of elsewhere. So my friends, we often do not recognize what is already in our presence. Unlike the ocean fish, we need not look any further. The reign of God is already present, and we are swimming in it. I like the words that Luke uses to emphasize the gospel, that he was teaching on level ground. He came down with them and stopped on level ground. In my opinion, the level ground is apt metaphor for the human condition, where life is messy, where we are experiencing the absence of justice and the violation of rights of others. The human condition is unpredictable and filled often with inequity. This is the world that Jesus' message proclaims. that this is the context in which Jesus' message is heard and preached. For Jesus truly is aware of the messiness of life. For as Luke says, he is the Son of humanity. Divinity has come down and is within the human condition. And the gospel depicts Jesus marshaling his forces for a message everyone is waiting for. For in the gospel, we hear that Jesus looks directly at his disciples and the crowd that is gathered. Jesus' words describes the paradox of the human condition, the paradox of often we find very difficult. He pits God's words against the present state of injustice. I like these words because Luke in particularly has a way of inviting his hearers, those who read his gospel, that he is truly aware of the message, the complexity of the human condition, the life that we live. So Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are you who are hungry. Blessed are you who suffer the loss of many kinds, for the reign of God is yours." The reign of God is in your midst, and it is even within you. But woe to those who search elsewhere. This discrepancy drives the blessings of the woes. So Jesus is speaking to us, my friends, today. The reign of God is here, is in our midst. So how do we see it? How do we really experience this reign of God? I believe it takes faith and trust in Jesus' words. I believe that Jesus speaks of the love and mercy that flows from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It energizes us to see clearly God's presence in our midst, even within the messiness of life. It is the energy source that opens our eyes to see God in our brothers and sisters who suffer. The divine life, the reign of God, is also in the poor, in the hungry, in those who mourn. In Jesus' words, nothing is overlooked or left behind. It is justice and our participation in making all things new. This is the reign of God. God makes all things new, and the old has passed away. It is through Jesus that we see this. It is about the courage to work for those who are oppressed, and for those who hunger, and for those who mourn. The reign of God is truly about our participation in this something that is happening beyond us, but yet we are invited to participate in. And what is it? We're saying that it is the reign of God. It is that dynamic energy that is making all things new, that is healing all that is unjust in our world. All this is God's plan. God's reign on earth through Jesus Christ is to bring justice into our world, to reconcile all that is unjust, and to forgive all that we have done that contributes to that injustice. Yesterday, I attended a webinar on racial justice by Father Dan Haran, a Franciscan. And this webinar was sponsored by the Intercommunity of Peace and Justice Center, primarily in Western Washington. However, the participants were from all over the country. And Father Moran spoke at length about the white privilege that blinds our approach to racial justice. It blinds us to the reign of God in our midst. It blinds us to see what God is doing and what we are invited to participate in. I want to share with you an example that came to me as I was praying and pondering these words of Jesus. Earlier, we had a severe snowstorm, and I went down to just take a walk, and I walked along the waterfront, and I saw a man sitting on the bench, and his back was towards me, but he was had a cloak, a blanket over his shoulders, and I could see that he was shivering. And I no doubt he did not have anything to eat or hadn't eaten anything for a long while. So I paused and I sort of started to go on by him, but then I turned around. And there was something inside of me that wanted to approach him and to offer maybe a word of comfort and perhaps even a dollar or two for him to drink, to him to get some breakfast. So I approached him and I did exactly that. I believe that that was an incident that I was open to see the reign of God in my poor brother. We all have that opportunity. And as a community of Emmaus, we all participate in the reign of God in the things that we do. It doesn't necessarily be with the poor on the streets, but I believe we experience the reign of God even in our daily life, in being responsible for those things that we are committed to, being kind and generous to our loved ones, to our neighbors. It's the little things that I believe that we experience the reign of God in. And I will leave it to you to sort of think about those ordinary things in our life that is an example of the reign of God that we participate in. But the challenge is to see it. And I believe that many of the things in my own life can distract me from that. Things that I maybe worry about or be sort of overly concerned about. Those are the things that distract me from seeing what God's presence in our midst. And it's similarly that that's why the little ocean fish swam away and was looking for what he was really looking for elsewhere. And it was already in his midst. So this is the message today that I want to share with you, that God's presence is within us, it surrounds us, it is surely in our brothers and sisters that are poor, that mourn, that are hungry, that lost. But it is up to us to open our eyes to that. And how do we do that? Principally by being aware of those good things that happen in our life already, with our spouses, with our partners, with our family, with our children, That's the way that God shows us and strengthens us what he is all about. That the reign of God is truly in our midst. It's in the messiness of our life. It is the messiness of those things that we often, get frustrated about, get anxious about. But God never abandons us. God never abandons us. So he challenges us today, and especially in St. Luke's words, it's in the messiness of life that the reign of God is present. So for our reflection, how does this reign of God, how does this messiness of life still affect us to see God's presence in our life? Maybe we can talk about that, to maybe share an example or two of how you saw the reign of God in your life.